Before I started spending time in adoration chapels, I assume I would have just dismissed it as a waste of time. I mean, why are you going to sit in a room in front of a piece of bread that isn't anything other than a piece of bread? Our culture, I think, places a very high value on independence and this sort of do-it-yourself, stick-to-itness. You know, we've got to have control of every aspect in our lives. And for me, it was very liberating to be able to sit in the adoration chapel and realize that I had no control at all over any aspect of my life, and that I was, in fact, very dependent. Not only on God, but on other people. So what had been a waste of time, or what I would have considered to be a waste of time, became a very healing thing, just to be able to sit there in the presence and bring all of your thoughts, your anxieties, your worries, all of it to this place, and know that you are in the presence of God. It is tangible. My wife and I used to lead the RCIA process at our parish out in California, and I was astonished at how many people from other faith traditions, Mormon, Protestant, you name it, and no tradition at all, would come and say that one reason they were there in RCIA is because they had had an experience of a presence in a Catholic church that they could not explain, and that it is different in other churches. You just don't feel the same presence. I certainly found that to be the case. So it was a very healing thing for me to be able to learn to surrender and to learn that dependence is actually a good thing. In my experience, the presence in that room was undeniable, so that alone intrigued me and got me to probe more deeply. What does the Church teach about the Eucharist, and why in the world would they teach us about the Eucharist? Which, of course, took me back to the Gospels, especially to that famous chapter of 6 in St. John's Gospel. It's very hard to read that and not understand that this is a literal presence in the Eucharist that you're talking about. It's not a symbolic thing. It's not anything short of that. It's very hard to see that if you really take that text honestly. And because that experience of that presence had been something that I only ever felt in a Catholic context, that brought it all together to me. You say, well, there is something to this. There's more to this. And then you get into the intellectual history of the Church and the theological explanations of it. But all of it comes back down in the end to this presence, this powerful, tangible presence of God in the host, in the Eucharist. You do that enough over time, I think it really begins to sink in a way that is beyond the intellect. Involves that, engages that for sure, but is much bigger than that as well.